Kris, welcome, and just a little bit about Speedy Hire. What's the scale of the fleet, and what sort of thing are you doing with your vehicles?
Yeah, so we're obviously primarily to a hire business. We have about 1,800 vehicles total. We're definitely on the electrification journey. We try to keep on top of things, try to be innovators. You know, we try keep to the forefront of where we can. So we were quite early adopters of the e-Transit. We have quite a great partnership with Ford. So yeah, we have around 260 electric vehicles at the moment across the 4.25 ton LCVs. We have 8 electric trucks, so ranging from 7.5 ton up to 27. They're a whole different kettle of fish, but you know we're on that journey anyways. Yeah, it's the EV rally side of things, and you know, being great fans and great supporters of it. We love to do it every year. Doing it again this year, we've signed up. Yeah, so our journey's been interesting, fun, but yeah, it's definitely challenging. We've learned a lot.
Yeah,
learned a lot.
It's one of those iconic brands. I mean, you know, you see the Speedy Hire transits all over the place, and so I guess one of the first questions is, what started you on the journey? Was it an internal desire from an ESG director? Was it a managing director? You know.
Yeah. So. The decision was made by our CEO, Dan. So we went from a previous CEO, Russell, who retired. We went to Dan Evans, who was big proponent of the ESG side of things. We employed an ESG team. So Amelia Woodley at the time, who started off on this journey, was employed as an ESG director. Set up our team, and then we one of the first things we did was went to SBTI, so the Science Based Target Initiative. We were the first in the tool hire industry to be verified, which comes with a whole host of external verifiers and audits and all that fun stuff. So, you know, we took it really seriously. You know, we really wanted to make an impact, and we got out the gates really strong. So the e-Transit was just out at the time. We kind of pre-committed to 150 with 66 additional after. Which obviously now we're at about 250 of those. So again, we're not stopping there. We're going to be buying more. We took a lot of plug-in hybrids again just to see how they worked. You know, we're exploring hydrogen. You know, we got some trials on that. So it was a really good decision. And one thing Speedy did, which was great, was they developed a partnership, a program called the ESG Business Partners, which I am one of. So a lot of the key stakeholders in the business, through the multiple facets of our business, so every kind of division that touches anything ESG, they got a business partner to push that agenda. You know, they trained us, IEMA trained us, and you know, got proper qualification in it to really understand, which is quite an eye-opener. You know, I learned a lot of things on that IEMA course where, you know, NOx, one of the harmful chemicals. Everyone talks about CO2. There's NOx. There's a few other nasty chemicals. But NOx sits around waist height. You know, that's where it kind of dwells. Where that's the same height as a child's face.
Yep.
So in these big city centres, you don't realise it's not just about the CO2. It's also about the harmful chemicals in cities. And if we can do a small thing of, you know, like London was our first electric depot, all full electric out of our central London depot. If we can have an impact on that, then, you know, the cost of that is irrelevant. You know, it's such a passionate piece for us that we're on this journey and we keep on it.
I cut my teeth on air quality measurement on vehicles and things, so that's my background, is emissions management. And so the relationship with Lex, I mean, Speedy have been with you for a number of years, so...
Yeah, a long-standing relationship. I'm not actually sure of how many years it goes back. It's
over 10, I think. It's over.
Yeah, it's over 10 years, absolutely. Yeah, so, you know, we've been there to support what Speedy have been looking to do all the way through that. You know, I think one of the things as an observation, because we deal with a lot of customers right across the piece, I think it's really important that you get that top-level buy-in, you know, and that you get a board-level director who's really buying into that ESG agenda and can see how fleet can ultimately impact that. The other thing as well, which is great for people in Kris's position, is they tend to have budget allocated to it, right? So from that perspective, really easy. But yeah, long-standing relationship. We've kind of seen this journey that Speedy have gone on. We're here to support. A lot of it's been driven by these guys, so full kudos to Kris and the rest of the team at Speedy.
I'll just jump in on that. I think Lex sold himself short a little bit there, because the very first thing we did on this ESG journey, kind of before we officially got an ESG team and went SBTI. So we did a small thing with our cars. So we were diesel, petrol, as everybody else was back in 2020, 2021. Just coming out of COVID, you know, that crazy time that we had. But Lex were an integral partner of, they let us early terminate some of the vehicles to get a lot of plug-in hybrids. That generated about, I think it was £750,000 worth of BIK savings to our staff across the entire fleet. So they were gracious in the fact that they let us early term some of those, get plug-in hybrids, EVs, and that started us on that journey before we even got an electric van. So, you know, I don't want to sell themselves short, but, you know, they were integral to us actually going on this journey.
Yeah, thanks, Kris. I'll give him in the fiver later. So
I think it's exactly what we've heard from a number of other. You know, the first thing, as you highlighted, Kris, that top-down approach. You need the guy at the top to believe in this. And you need to be working with partners who believe in it as well, and will kind of flex and bend the rules, or just you know, make it happen. Yeah. So it's absolutely critical to have those relationships. I think a really important point you mentioned there was about actually training staff through the business at all levels, and getting that buy-in not only to decarbonisation but to the whole ethos within the business. And did that extend all the way down to the drivers and the fitters?
That's probably the thing we got the most wrong. You know, when we first launched these out, naively to us, because some of us were in those cars that we were just talking about, so a lot of us were kind of familiar with the terminology, and naively we handed a lot of these e-transits over to drivers that have been in diesels for 30 years. Now, AC charging, speeds, charge curves, it's all kind of bread and butter to us, but naively we kind of looked over the fact that it's not as easy for everyone else just to pick it up, and you know, if you've been doing it a certain way for a long time, it's hard to change. The vehicles themselves got rave reviews because the technology in them, they're quiet, they're comfortable, they're not, you know, you're not lugging through a diesel gearbox, so the drivers loved them. You just didn't know how to use them efficiently. So we had to kind of step back once we got a lot of them in. And we developed a driver guide, you know, for to be able to say, you know, what the L mode is on a Ford Transit, you know, regenerative braking, what charge curves are, you know, going from 20 to 80%, things that we just kind of took for granted. But once we got that out, it massively improved. Again, the vehicles were doing what they needed to do, but we were losing a lot of time, and I think that's a piece on the EVs that people overlook when they're starting that journey. Is cost of the vehicle is less than the cost of the person. So if the person sat for an hour, it normally costs more than the day's use of the van. So you got to make sure that they're being used efficiently. So it's a big piece of what we learned from. We developed guides. We delved into the data of it. You know, we helped managers kind of find where the charges are. There's no point going to a 350 kilowatt charger if the Ford Transit only charges at 125. So that was a big piece on a big learning curve for us, but it's as important as choosing the vehicle is training the drivers and making them understand.
I think that's absolutely right. And
yeah, I was just going to jump in there if I can, and I think that's something that we've learnt from Kris and the experiences that they've had. So, you know, when we're talking to our wider customers about getting on the journey and things that they need to think about, that whole driver education piece. I mean, you know, anecdotally, a lot of van drivers haven't even driven an automatic vehicle, let alone an electric one. So, you know, there is that huge sort of learning curve. And Kris is right. We're in the industry. We live and breathe this on a day-to-day basis. The drivers of these vehicles do other things, right? The vehicle is just a tool to the job. They don't live and breathe this stuff. So, yeah, hugely important. And we've learned a lot from Kris's experiences that we bring to the rest of our customers to help them get on the journey with education and various other things.
I will say is it's not just the drivers as well. I think, and Lex do this and GreenFleet do this, you know, a lot of these suppliers that are doing these forums, you know, sharing this information. Fleet managers or, you know, people who are on this journey might just be starting it and they don't know where to start, you know, and a lot of people have went through the pain we have, you know. So I think that knowledge sharing is so important in this industry, not just for EVs, but just in general. Knowledge sharing, how you do things, how you've overcame problems, is such a big piece, and it's great seeing suppliers like GreenFleet, Lex, and others that are hosting these for fleet managers to attend, learn from our mistakes, figure out how it works for your business. That's so important education, not just for drivers but for managers, for anyone that wants to go down this journey. Is it's a brand new way of doing things. We've been driving diesels and petrols for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. EVs are only kind of been on the scene really in a big way in the last 10. So it is brand new. It's a brand new thing, and technology changes so fast. And when we took those Ford Transits, a new one's already out, and then I imagine they're looking at the next one and the next one. So it's about choosing the right vehicle, but making sure you understand the things that you probably will kind of not necessarily think about, the small pieces that make a big difference.
I think that's. I mean, it's a really interesting point. It's something that talking to the fleets with Lex over the last 3 days has really come through, and I think the fleet sector is grabbing this, and people who are driving professionally or within their profession are getting that support. There's a big gap in the personal user market. I've got salary sacrifice cars, and they turn up on your drive, hand you the keys, or have you driven an electric? Yeah, and off you go. And that's the sales sack, where in the private purchaser, retail purchaser in a dealership, it's even worse. There's no experience given, no charging, all of those other things. So that is probably one of the biggest things holding the sector back. But I mean, getting employees who do drive electric vehicles in their own time and on their own ticket presumably makes them champions within the business as well.
Absolutely. We have some fantastic engineers that are driving 3,000 miles a month, getting great efficiency scores, so they are really championing the brand. They normally they're one of the first early adopters, if I'm honest with you. That tends to be a theme that we've seen. The people who adopted them at the very start were open up to it, they've adapted, they've embraced it. We have some, the electric vehicles we have, while the range isn't 300 miles, we'll be in the 100 something, but we have drivers that are getting great efficiency scores, know how to charge, know how to efficiently charge. They're doing 3,000 miles a month. It's not just to go to the shops and back these vehicles. I think if you've got a range of, I'm just throwing a number out there, but you've got a 150 mile range, that's not a limit. You can drive as much as you want. You just got to charge, and you got to charge efficiently to get those numbers, but you can do. So it's just that's the common misconception I hear quite a lot is I've got 150 miles range, but I need to do 200. Okay, just charge. You're fine.
And so how did you approach the charging? You're a depot-based fleet, so it's charging in depots. What's been your approach to that?
So we have a great, again, it's all about partners and suppliers. So we have a great supplier called Juice Booster, which it charges into the 315 volt. So you have a lot with the capex cost of starting it rather than podium charging, doing groundworks, which is very expensive, civils that are involved with that. We had very early on, we found this supplier, where we put it on the lease of the vehicle. It's a fairly inexpensive cable for what it is, and all it costs is an electrician to come out, fit a 315 volt socket on the wall, which means, especially if you lease places, you don't have landlords disputing that they don't want to put chargers in. You don't have to pay for a landlord to get a charger effectively, because if you move out the depot, then you've paid for all this, and you can't take it with you. So we found this great solution where you can charge up to 22 AC for less than £1,000 per vehicle. The cable goes with the vehicle, so you can go to another depot that has a charging slot, and you can charge there. That's not an issue at all. So if you have a lot of vehicles that dwell at your sites overnight, it's a fantastic solution. We still have to use public charging, because we definitely, we have to rapid charge some of our vehicles because they do good mileage. But if your vehicles dwell, which a lot of them do overnight, most of our vehicles, almost all of them, will go back to a depot and stay there until the morning. So we can fully charge every vehicle in the morning to 100% on these fast chargers, on these AC chargers. But again, it's just about finding those right supplies that work. Speedy is a big proponent of partnerships. So a lot of our suppliers, as Lex, a lot of the people we work with have been 10 plus years. It's not always about the cheapest supplier; it's about the right supplier. you know. So if, you know, something's a little bit more expensive, you have to look at the full picture, and get the right suppliers. It helps tremendously.
And you roll the juice booster in with the vehicle, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess we treat it just as an accessory. Yeah, so roll it in as part of the lease. I think it's a particularly innovative way of doing things that Kris has found, and I think what it demonstrates certainly to me, and should be, I think, a really good test case for all customers. Look, there are challenges with getting on the road to electrification, whether you charge in the depot or within the public network. You know, these are the questions that customers need to answer for themselves. I think what people like Speedy sort of demonstrate is that there are solutions out there. There are solutions that can be cost effective. You don't need to dig up your car park and spend millions of pounds, you know, upgrading your grid and having infrastructure put in place. And Kris is not on his own, you know, leasing premises is you know, pretty commonplace. So look, there are solutions out there. Some of them really innovative in terms of sort of mobile batteries that you can have. You know, there's loads of stuff that's out there. I think what my encouragement to customers, and something that we do at Lex, is to try and educate and inform through the forums and various other things we've done. It's kind of open our customers' eyes to what the art of the possible is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll say what works for us doesn't work for everyone. Some people will own their sites, and DC charging is a fantastic solution that I wish we could do. It would make our life a lot easier, but we can't. And there is solutions, you know, such as mobile DC, battery banks, and all that stuff. So, you know, my use case is different to everyone else, and same with the vehicles. You just got to make sure, you know, you got to know what the options are and know what's right for you, which I think is where these forums are so they shine so brightly, because you're able to kind of go, well, that actually works for me, or that doesn't work for me, or it might work for me. So it's just about exploring these options that, you know, we've done the due diligence and found this great supplier. It might work for you know, another company might not, but it's an option. So it's just, again, it's about that knowledge sharing, you know.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, Mike, and so the juice booster is, you know, you will roll in as part of the vehicle lease, but I'm presuming a fixed charge point would be out of scope for you guys, or?
Yeah, so there's a bit of nuance to that in terms of, you know, ownership of that after the event, because, you know, if you're getting a home charger installed, it's installed at an individual's premises, and, you know, strictly speaking, you're into some kind of a finance agreement for that, and so that creates problems. I'm not saying that it's not insurmountable. I think for us at Lex, who predominantly focus on corporate marketplace, it's something that we've not done yet. I think we've got a real desire to try and do that, because I think that solution for, especially in the personal space, it's almost like just a one cost for all of your motoring, and that includes charging and whatever else needs to come along with it. Something that we're really open to exploring. And obviously, we're Lex Autolease, but part of Lloyd's Banking Group, so we have a number of different businesses that operate in this space, some in the personal space, some in the salary sacrifice space. So for those particular businesses, I think our view is we need to find solutions for this, but we don't tend to do it ourselves at Lex.
I mean, I've seen around the show, and actually I'm familiar with a couple of sort of DC rapid charger solutions that are standalone box battery assisted that plug into a regular Commando, and so you're almost creating another piece of kit that could be leased and transferred and all that sort of thing. So there's a huge amount of innovation going on in this space. One of the things I'm interested in, Speedy Hire, renowned for, you know, market leader of plant hire, tools, equipment. What about all the kit that you're delivering around with these vehicles? Does the ESG parameter sort of push into that business as well?
Absolutely. I mean, with any ESG targets, you know, fleet's always the first thing they look at, and then it's suppliers, and then it's, you know, what you're sending out there. So, you know, Speedy are trying to innovate in that area as well. You know, we were the first to partnership with Nifty Lift to have a hydrogen boom for the powered access. So, first to the market. I believe we're our sole supplier of that. So if you want one, let us know. But you know, we're always looking at low carbon alternatives. We were working with one of our great suppliers who, again, was on that journey themselves and wanted a lower carbon solution to their petrol tools that they had. So we spoke with our suppliers and we got a great battery solution for them. So it's something that we're open to. It's something that we have the right people in the right places to be able to help you with. So yeah, it's always something that we're looking at. It's not just fleet. Speedy Hire, we're trying to decarbonize the entire supply chain from start to finish. Yeah, and we're uniquely, I personally say we're uniquely situated in the market to be able to, if you wanted a fully carbon-free system, we can do that from start to finish. So, you know, we try to do things. We trialed boats on the Thames. So going from Dartford, the terminal, and we're working with a great company on Thames Water to transfer kit up the Thames, off the roads completely to get congestion off. We're looking at a hydrogen or a HVO boat at the moment, looking to go electric. So it will be a zero carbon. We'll take kit from Erith, our depot, down to the Dart on an electric vehicle, on an electric boat up the Thames to our central London depot that's been fully electric to the customer on an electric vehicle. So, and it's not just about carbon, it actually takes congestion off London roads. So we're trying to go the step ahead, not just carbon, trying to take off congestion. So it's just things like that where we're always open to it. You know, we're always exploring it. It might be the next best thing. You don't know unless you're trying. You got to put yourself out there. So,
are you seeing are customers demanding that, and are they prepared to pay for that sort of service?
Are they demanding it? Yes. Do they want to pay for it? Not so much. But you know, that's business. You know, everyone wants what they want. You know, we're a supplier to customers, so that's for us to figure out whether it's cost effective to do so, and what the benefits in doing so are. But yeah, it does cost more money. That's, you know, we can't get around it. Electric vehicles are, you know, they're more expensive. You got to look at the whole life costs, which then obviously brings that cost down. Especially at the moment where fuel prices are so crazy. Yeah. I'm pushing for our electric vehicles, get them out more. You know, our electric rates haven't went up, so you can mitigate against the volatility of markets and all that good stuff. So yes, it's we try to be uniquely positioned to be able to offer a fully carbon-free solution from kit to deliveries. If somewhere, you know, a customer from some site somewhere wanted, I want fully electric, we can move things around to make sure that happens.
Brilliant. And I'm interested because you said you've got, I mean, you've obviously got moved forward in the van space. You're 25+% of your van fleet is already electrified, so way ahead of sort of the market, all the sales levels. But in the truck space, you've also on the heavier truck managed to go electric on some of those.
Yeah. So we have 8 electric trucks, gone from 7.5 to 27. That's a unique space. You know, it's harder definitely for the trucks. It's much like where vans were at the start, trucks are now. There is some great solutions out there. There's some great suppliers that'll come out and, you know, do a full assessment on whether you can. Our trucks, because they're not just doing A to B, you know, we have high abs, we have cranes, we have all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff on the back of ours to be able to deliver big, heavy power tools and power kit. Sorry. So it's not always as easy. There's solutions out there. You know, we can get electric cranes. The high ab do a great EPTO. It's definitely challenging, but something that, again, we're not scared of. We're in there, and our commitment is, you know, to have another 34 by 2040. You know, part of our SBTI targets. So we've not stopped. The government's changed and flip-flopped a little bit on what their mandates are, but we've stayed strong. You know, when the cars changed from 2030 to 2035, we didn't change. We're set on our path, and we're trying to stick to it. We're trying to stick to it no matter what the markets are doing.
Yeah, and what's the sort of absolute target for Speedy? Is it a net zero by 2050, net zero by 20? Yeah.
Yeah, net zero by 2050.
So you're aligned with, you know, global standards and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that consistency is really important. As you say, there's been more media coverage of government moving than actual government moving. In fact, the 2040 timeframe has been around for a long while for all new road vehicles to be zero emission by 2040, and actually that hasn't moved a lot. But yeah, you wouldn't believe that if you read the newspapers by any means. So I guess one of the key things for us on the Decarb Hub has been trying to impart to fleet managers and fleets that are maybe newer to this space, you know, where do you start, and what are the pitfalls that come and talk to Kris before you do this.
Yeah, I'll say the first thing you do is speak to an OEM. OEMs will give you an electric vehicle with very little commitment. They, you know, they're obviously they're trying to push that agenda as well. They have, you know, the ZEV mandates and all that stuff. So it's in their interest to get them out. So I know a lot of OEMs that are very, very amenable to, I want to try this out. I'm not sure about it. Speak to them. Ford are a great partner of ours. They, you know, I'm sure if you need to speak to someone in Ford, you can find somebody, especially at the CV show. There's loads of them.
Yep.
So, you know, come here. But they'll definitely, absolutely. I mean, Lex have a few used EV offerings as well, don't you?
We do, yeah. We've actually got 5 electric vans that we are giving to our customers. Peppercorn rental. It's virtually free for 3 or 6 months to try it in anger. Because, you know, again, we want to promote to make sure that, you know, Kris will be a keen advocate of this. You've got to try it to see if it works, right? Everyone looks at, the range, that's not going to work for me, or my drivers are never going to accept that. Actually, try it, yeah. Dip your toe in, see what it's like. OEMs will definitely do that. We've got our own relatively small scale at the moment, but, you know, we've got these vehicles out with customers. And I would say, and I'm sure Kris will echo this, drivers do love them once they're in them, yeah, and they don't want to go back.
Yeah.
So I do think that as long as you can make the challenges such as training and charging and all that kind of stuff work, and there are solutions that definitely work, I would challenge someone to find an application that you cannot make work, and we see that, you know, day in, day out. Dip your toe in, get started, definitely.
Brilliant.
What I'll say is, hopefully none of our drivers are watching this, but drivers think they do about 5,000 miles a day. They don't. The drivers really exaggerate what they actually do in terms of mileage in a day. I mean, ideally, they're not driving 500 miles a day because that means they're not delivering. You know, I don't want them to be on the road. I want them to be on sites, dropping off kit and picking it up. So you got to look at the data. You know, again, you can get the vehicles. A lot of suppliers like Lex or the OEMs, they'll help you get that vehicle and test it. But if you've got telematics, a lot of the telematics suppliers, again, they'll help you. Everyone wants to help. You've just got to speak to them. Put yourself out there, say, listen, I'm on this journey, speak to your suppliers, and, you know, if they're not helping you, look at another supplier.
Yeah.
Again, I talked about it at the very start. It's about having the right suppliers, you know, and we've been fortunate. I mean, it's almost cheating because I've had a great exec board that have been on this journey. I've got great suppliers, so it's easy for me. Because all I've got to do is crunch the numbers and say, this is what we need and here's what we need. Convincing the drivers is my issue, but, you know, that's not as easy. But once they're in them, as you said, they love them. They're such a nice drive. You know, they're quiet, they're comfortable, they've got all the tech in the world rather than a dirty diesel that's lugging through the gearbox. You know, it's loud, it smells bad, all this stuff. So, yeah, speak to OEMs, speak to suppliers, just try it. But give it to someone who will give it a shot.
Yeah.
You can give it to someone who's never going to give it the time of day. They'll rag it, you know, they'll not get the range, they'll complain about it, and you won't actually look at it. You have to give it a chance. You have to really look at how it was being used, what it was being used for, and can you use this across your business?
Yeah, and in fact, the drivers love it so much that they take part in the rally. So we're going to be seeing you on the EV rally again, are we?
I try to go every year. Love it. It's a business trip technically. That's what we put it down to.
You're not claiming the mileage as well, are you?
I'm not claiming the mileage, but you know, we try put it through as a marketing and business trip. But it's such a laugh, camaraderie, and you know, being able to speak to a lot of the drivers. You know, everyone's out to help each other. You know, we've helped people. People will be stuck. We you know, people are trying to do, you know, cool things as well. They're trying to push themselves. Some people more competitive than others. Myself, trying to win it, trying to go as slow as it. I always say, and quite funny, it's the worst rally you'll ever go on because you have to go the slowest. You know, it's not you're not going down the back dirt lanes going 80 miles an hour. You're trying to really keep the efficiency and keep it to you know, a safe standard, which is great. Some of us just drive it like normal vans and cars. I really try push and get the most out of mine. Which helped me for the win last year, just so everyone knows.
Absolutely.
Again, going for the 2-time. But yeah, it's just a great laugh on how we do. You know, it's even in our team or people we've never met before. You know, we've made a lot of contacts and met a lot of people on the rallies that go most years, and we still speak to them now. You know, they're a good laugh, and everyone's out to help, and it's a great environment to try electric. You've got a whole host of people that are on the same journey. Some of us more comfortable than others that are willing to help. This isn't working. Well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Or this charger isn't working. Well, think about this. So you're in a mix of experts and people that are doing it for the first time. It's the perfect environment for you to be in. And if you ever get stuck, you've got 30 people that are willing to help you that are, while you're on the side of the road. So it's something anyone should try.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. It's been great, Kris, and thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you, Mike, for your support for the stand as well.
Thank you.
I'm going to take away a couple of key nuggets, and they're very similar we've heard throughout the day. But get that buy-in at the top, or get that commitment from the top with a long-term commitment. That's clearly fundamental. Get the data. You mentioned, get the data. Find out what you're doing first, and where the challenges are going to be, and then get with the right partners. And I'm adding to that, put your toe in the water. I mean, try it. Don't knock it till you try it, as they say. And
yeah, just to finish off as well, if you don't mind, a little bit of self-publicity for Lex Autolease. So, Kris is right in terms of speak to people. I think what we've been able to do really successfully over the last couple of years is connect businesses together. No one really in our marketplace has got the kind of breadth of customer base, the breadth of applications, and we can very much facilitate for our customers the right people to speak to, whether it's someone like a Kris or whether it's the supply chain, whether it's the solutions that are needed. So my advice to anyone who's about to get on this journey, come and speak to Lex Autolease. If you've got a partner already, speak to your partner because they'll be in similar positions. I think Chaba on Tuesday said, you're not on your own in this, and you're absolutely not. Speak to the right people, you'll get on the right track. This is not as difficult as perhaps we all think it is. And do it now, definitely.
Absolutely right. And we've got this great community, and as you say, we know who to speak to. But for the people coming in for the first time, maybe just come and get involved in some of the rallies and these social things. Because if you don't know where to speak, it's actually quite difficult to penetrate that if you're not in the bubble. So that's where these outreach environments but Kris, Mike, thank you for your time. It's been great talking to you.
Pleasure. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you very much.